What's good, family? What's good?
Hey, hey.
My name is Rolam, and that is Kayla Raney, and we are back for another episode of the Raney and Row Show.
The podcast for the professionally curious and the creatively minded. One of
Yes,
these days.
yes. We are back. We're glad to be here. It's good to see you, Kayla.
Thank you.
Um, it's good to see everybody tuning in. I don't even know if anybody popped in yet, but I'm sure they'll be here.
Yeah.
Today, we are going to talk about overcoming resistance. We're going to talk about, which I felt like as I was thinking about this before we got on, I
Hmm.
feel like we sort of touched on this before,
Okay.
but I feel like this is a little different, but we can get into that. We can get into
All
that.
right. All
Before
right.
we get into our topic, though, we want to talk about what is inspiring us from our week.
Yeah.
What's inspiring
Yeah.
you from the week?
As always, I'm going to have something much less profound to say than you. Uh, as per usual, it's a book that I'm listening to. Big surprise.
Okay.
It's actually this new author that I discovered. It's her debut indie novel from a couple years ago called Stalking Jack the Ripper. And I found it, yeah, I know, because I've kind of been on a little bit of like a darker novel, like thriller kick right now. And her latest series, Kingdom of the Feared, has its like final installation coming out soon. I'm sure that you've seen it like
Yeah,
floating around on Bookstagram. Yeah.
I haven't
So
read
this
it,
is
but
her.
I've definitely heard of it.
Okay. So I read the first two of the installations of that series, and I'm really excited about this third one coming out. So out of curiosity, I read her very first indie book, and it's not what I expected at all. So it's super refreshing. And it's about this woman in Victorian England who wants to be a forensic like pathologist. She wants to be the person who examines cadavers after violent crimes and like finds all the clues. So she pairs up with this person who's a little reminiscent of like Sherlock Holmes, and I think it's like a four-part book series where they kind of go on these adventures seeking out different like serial killers, different mythological like people like Dracula, H.H. Holmes, like those kind of things. And it has these really unique twists on it. I won't do any like plot spoilers, but I sort of sat back after I finished Stalking Jack the Ripper, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is pretty good." So that's been really inspiring to me today, and it was like a really good dose of like really great female character writing and like a fun. It was just a really fun read, and that was what I needed this week. So,
Awesome.
what
Awesome.
about you?
So, if you tuned in last week, you know that I went to the studio on Sunday.
Yes.
So I did go to the studio, but I didn't actually record anything. Um,
What?
and what was interesting was that before I went to the studio, I was inundated with just fear. Like I was just like, I actually had decided like I'm not going. I'm not going.
No.
I was just so scared. And
Oh
I've
my
never
God.
been afraid to go to the studio before. Like I've never been scared of that.
Yeah.
And so this was so foreign to me. It was so foreign. And I was just like, I don't know why I'm scared, but I'm scared and I'm not going. I'm just not going. And my I talked to a friend of mine and he was just like, bro, like you got to give yourself like some grace and be patient with yourself because it's
Mhm.
been 10 years since you've been in the studio.
10 years?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And so
Oh
he's
my
like,
God.
it's like you don't, it's just different now. Like you got to understand that it's different. And what I realized was that, so this week I've been doing a lot of writing and working on
Yeah.
music. And I realized that music and poetry, but really music more than anything else, really forces me to actually dig into who I am.
Yeah.
And I think a part of the fear that I was feeling was that the verses that I've been writing and that I was going to record, I realized those verses were who I was 10 years ago. and they're not really reflective of who I am right now. And
Yeah.
so I sort of feel like Captain America, who, Captain America falls into,
Yes.
I think it's frozen in time. And when he comes out,
Yes.
he's like, it's still the 60s, And
Yeah.
so, now I'm coming out, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm ready to go. But it's like, but this isn't who I am. And
Right.
I could feel that. And that did not feel good. It didn't feel good. But it inspired me though, because I realized that it really just means I need to get back to the experimentation, the discovery process, my friend who was in the studio, he paid, good money for this space.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to get in here and not honor or respect the money
Right.
and the time that they have in it. I mean, the space was amazing. And I'm
Oh
like,
my
I don't
God.
feel I don't feel good about that at all. And so
Oh.
I want to get like a little home studio, something that's cheap and I can just
Yeah.
be in here and just
Like mess
record,
around.
play,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
really get back to not get back, but rediscover who I am as an artist. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm very excited about that. The reason why I didn't record though, because I did go to the studio and I didn't record because when I got in there, they were already moving and shaking. They were in the vibe, they were in
Oh,
the zone.
yeah.
And I was like, the song they were working on when I got there, I had a verse for it, but I was just like, I don't want to mess up what they got going on.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and it's always weird if the space is not for you and it wasn't, you
Yeah.
don't have any skin in
Totally.
the game. It's just I didn't
Totally.
feel right about trying to invade, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
Right.
but it was just good just being in the building, being back around the creative process of
Yes.
making music, putting a song together. And I left really inspired and excited about this next, journey that I'm going to be on, which also leads me to another tangent. I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot.
I'm so excited. No, this is great.
I feel like being an artist for me is so weird because I always find myself in these places where I just feel like a baby learning to walk. I just
Yeah.
feel like a newborn, you know what I'm saying? And so I have
Yeah.
to relearn, like when it comes to this music, I feel like I'm just relearning how to put a song together because I can't
Right.
do it the way I used to do it because that's not who I am.
Right.
So now I have to reinvent and figure that out,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it just feels really uncertain and it feels really scary and it feels really uncomfortable, but I love it. This is what I do. You know what I'm saying? This is what I do. So I'm excited. I'm inspired. I'm excited.
I love it. I think that's super inspiring to me. Everything you just said. It's like, okay, can I change my answer to that? Like, is that is that allowed? I'm
Take
inspired by Rose inspiration this week. Okay, stop the podcast. I gotta go paint. Like, I gotta go do something.
Right.
Yeah. But
So
that's what
yeah,
it's all about, right? Is being pushed outside of our comfort zone, being pushed to the point of sort of rebuilding and rediscovering ourselves like through our craft.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That is what it's about, and it's supposed to be scary. It's supposed to be
Yeah.
a little uncomfortable. So I'm excited about it. I'm a little scared about it, but I'm excited about it. We'll see what happens.
I had a professor in college that used to say when it stops scaring the shit out of you, it stops being good art.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's huge. I actually saw the
That
quote.
reminds me of that.
Yeah.
Really? Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
He may have stolen it from somebody. He was kind of a douchey professor. So.
I'm sure it just floats around. I'm sure. Okay. Well, do you have anything else that you would like to share?
I don't think so. I mean, don't ask me to follow that. Jesus. I'm over
So
here like, I read serial killer books this week.
okay, well, I will match that. I did read 2 thriller mystery type books. I
Okay.
read The Hunting Party by
Yes.
Lucy Foley. Did you
Oh,
read
looks so good. No, but it's on my like
that? Oh,
TBR, and as soon as you sent me the picture of it, I was like, oh, you beat me to it.
yes, it was good. It was good. And then I read The Hunting Wives by
Mm,
May Cobb.
yeah.
Now, I think I liked The Hunting Party a little better,
Okay.
but The Hunting Wives was very well written. I mean, it was just the way she describes things and uses color and
Yeah.
texture and just all of the senses from taste to touch to smell. I mean, it was a
Cool.
masterclass. Hunting Wives was a masterclass,
Cool.
but
All right.
both of them were very, very good, very good.
I like it. I'm
Yes.
bumping those up on my TBR. I
Okay, so are we ready to move to our topic?
think we are. I think we are
Okay,
set.
let's move to our topic. So a couple of episodes ago, we used an article that was
Mhm,
written by somebody, and we went through
mhm.
that, and we liked it so much, we thought let's do another one. Let's do another article.
Yeah.
So today, as I mentioned before, we're going to talk about resistance,
Mhm. Mhm.
overcoming resistance as an artist. Now,
Mhm.
there's a book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. Kayla, have you read
Yeah.
this?
Oh, I have. Oh, I have.
I think, and tell me what you think. I think if
Okay.
you're an artist, if you're trying to do anything, you should
Yeah.
read this book.
Yeah, you have to. It's required reading.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it changed my life. When I read it, it changed my life because it put a name
Yeah.
to what it is that I was dealing with day
Yeah.
in and day out.
Yeah.
And that name is resistance.
Yes.
So we talked about resistance, and I found an article by Leo. I think his name is Babata. I don't know the last name.
Sounds good to me, man.
And the article is titled Seven Powerful Steps to Overcoming Resistance and Actually Getting Stuff Done.
Yeah.
Okay.
A
And a lot
key
of this,
part of that.
yeah, a lot of his article, well, he actually mentions Stephen Pressfield and the War of Art. Again,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
required reading if you're an artist. If you're trying to do anything, you got to read it. But he gives 7 steps. So we figured we could go through these 7 steps and we could see what we think about them. Do we agree with them?
Yeah.
Do we not agree with them? Do we use these things?
Mhm.
Let's see, right? All right. So the first one is to become aware. Okay. Now, we just touched on this a little bit, but the
Yeah.
idea is that you can't fight something until you actually acknowledge it or you know that it's there, right? And so the idea is to become aware, to know that it's there. What do you think about that, Kayla?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's half the battle right there, is acknowledging that sometimes the creative process is an uphill battle. I think that people have this misconception, especially when you're a professional creator, that it just comes to you. It's something that you can turn on and off like a faucet. There's an endless supply of ideas and motivation and manic energy that just like keeps you going. When like the reality is that's just not true. That's just not true. And creating is, I would say, 70% problem solving and like 30% everything else. And the problem solving part of it is can be absolutely maddening.
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with what you said. And I also think that, becoming aware is about like life happens, it's always happening, right? And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
something might be happening with, your dad or your brother. And so you're doing all these different things, or something might be happening with you. And so you're trying to figure these things out. And so you can begin to point at some of these external things and say,
Yeah.
okay, well, this is why I'm not able to do this, or this is why I'm
Right.
not able to do that. And I'm
Right.
not saying that there isn't some validity to that, or there's not some truth to that. But
Right.
at the end of the day, the main thing is understanding that that's really not the culprit. The culprit
Right.
is really this internal struggle and battle
Mhm.
that you're fighting. But the thing is, it's not just you that's fighting it. Like
Yeah.
everyone is fighting this resistance. Like anybody trying to do something
Yeah.
is on a daily basis fighting. Like, okay, I got to get up. I got to do it. I know what I got to do. It's like, okay, am I going to do it? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
And so I think that's the big part of the awareness, being able to name it as resistance, and this is what it
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
and also realizing that it's the resistance and it's not whatever it is that I'm thinking it is over here, this external thing.
Right, right, right.
And so I think for me, at least, that was a big part of when I was able to put that name to it. It was like, oh, okay, it's not my job and it's not all these other things, but it's
Uh-huh.
if I conquer this,
Yeah. Yeah.
I can figure the rest out. You know what I mean?
Not you, it's me.
Right, right, right. Um, so the next one is, well, do you have anything else to say about becoming?
No, no, I'm good. Let's keep on
Perfect,
trucking.
perfect. Okay. So the next one is become a pro. This was also a big one for me. So become a
Hmm.
pro. This one is about, and I'm paraphrasing what he says in the article, but it's about showing up, right? It's
Yeah.
about the difference between the amateurs and the professionals is that the amateurs show up when they want to show up, and the professionals show up every day because they
Right.
know I got to work this like a job. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
this is I'm a professional, right? And so
Right.
that's how I'm going
Right.
to approach this, right? And I
Yeah.
know you like this one, Kayla. What you thinking? What you thinking?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know me. I have learned through a lot of trials and tribulation treat treat my work as what it is, which is a business. And I tend to compartmentalize things in a way that I think is uh, not intuitive to most creatives, which is in this way of I have to approach this the same way that I would if it were like a 9 to 5 job and I were clocking in an office every day. If I had a boss that was leaning over my shoulder, checking my emails and wanting to know where my spreadsheet for I don't know what they do in offices, but obviously I've never worked in one. But whatever they do there, I have to somehow emulate it here in order to have something that's successful because a business is a machine and being a professional creative is in some ways being a creative machine. I know that people really lash out at that verbiage of like, I'm a human being. I am not a like creating machine. Well, if you've chosen to be a professional creative, there is at least a part of you that does have to follow that. And I think that it's something that we struggle with constantly. And I'm pretty open about the fact that like I sound like I have my shit together, but I do not. I absolutely do not. And it's a struggle like every day to figure out what that line looks like and what that means.
Yeah,
Um, and it changes from day to day too, like just because I'm an artist doesn't mean that I don't have bookkeeping duties, administrative duties, that my like networking responsibilities. I mean, how many times have we talked about on here like the amount of hats that you have to wear
right,
as a professional creative?
right.
And and when you put it under the through the lens of resistance, that is a whole other dialogue that you can open up about that.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
know that you kind of have had like a coming to terms with these last few months of like shifting your ideas towards like, okay, I have to approach this as a professional. I have to approach this as like a business.
Yeah, I mean, um I think I've never really had a problem like showing up. I feel like I've
Yeah.
always like shown up. I think I just haven't had the structures. Um, so like for example, like I don't think like let me show up at a certain time and let me end at a certain time. Like I'm
Right, right.
always on go time. Like
Yeah,
I got an
yeah.
idea, like I'm just
Oh,
always
I know.
yeah, I'm just always doing that. And so I think for me, like it wasn't difficult like be like thinking like a professional and approaching it like a professional. But I do think that for me it's on the flip, it's on the reverse side of
Yeah.
it's not necessarily me knowing how to show up as a professional, but it's me knowing how to turn it off as a professional, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And understanding that, I'm not going to be able to do it like all day, every day.
right.
I do need to have some structures and some things in place in order to be professional. And I think that's something that you have been teaching me and showing me. Like, I don't think you've like
Yeah,
been teaching me, but just watching you and working
yeah,
with you, like I'm seeing what that professionalism looks like as
right,
a creator.
right.
You know what I mean? Um, and so, I mean, I think, um, yeah, I think it's important that we show up as professional and we show up as pros, because at the end of the day, you know, if we want to do this as a way to make money or as our livelihood, it's not enough to treat it like a hobby. It's not enough to just,
Exactly.
show up when you want to show up. But then there's there's the balance of knowing when you have to step away and when
Yeah,
when you push yourself through. I don't know. It's just, and we say this all the time, I don't know if there's a blanket answer or a clear cut way of
yeah,
defining this. I think it's different
yeah,
for every creative. I was actually watching a video about Eminem, and they were saying that, I don't know if he still does this, but there was a time when he would go in the studio 9 o'clock in the morning, take a lunch break from, they said, 1 to 2, come back and be done at 5.
yeah, yeah.
And so people would show up at the who was Akon. Akon said he was working with him. He showed up
Yeah.
at the studio at 6 p.m.
He's like, nope.
He gets there and they're like, M just left. And he's
Yeah,
like, I mean, he's like, he went home. So he calls him. He's like, bro, you coming
yeah.
back? So, yeah, I'm coming back tomorrow morning. He's like,
Uh-huh.
what do you mean?
Uh-huh. Normal business hours, motherfucker. Yeah.
9 to 5. Like, that's what and I just think, when you think about artists, a lot of time we think about the free flowing,
Mm-hmm.
non-structured,
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
sit around until inspiration hits. But a lot of the people that we look up to
Yeah.
operate like a professional, right? They
Right. Right.
operate like a business where they
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
times and all of that. And so, and the last thing I'll say is I think this scares me a little bit because I feel like it squeezes out my spontaneity,
Right.
my ability to randomly just have an idea and chase it and pursue it, right? Uh,
Yeah.
but I think there's space and there's room for both. You know what I'm saying?
I think so too. I agree with that. Yeah. I don't
Yes.
know if I'm the best authority on this topic. Obviously, I struggle a lot with the first two of these. So keep it coming.
All
How
right.
much more personally attacked can I feel today?
Okay. All right. All right. We're moving to number 3. Number 3 is be clear and focused.
Perfect.
Perfect. Yes. So in the article, Leo talks about, you may not be able to get 10 projects finished,
Hmm.
but you might be able to get 3, or you might be
Yeah.
able to get, one thing done or 3 things done on one project, right?
Yeah.
You can move
Yeah.
something forward. And I think this was something that I used. This was probably maybe 2 or 3 years ago. At the beginning of the year, I said, I'm only going to have one goal for this year. There are other
Yeah.
things I'll be working on and doing, but this year will be successful if I do this one thing, and that's finish the first draft of this novel.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so every day that I woke up, I knew I'm working on the novel because that's my top priority.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
everything else, I was able to slide in where it needed to go,
Right.
knowing that, okay, if I don't do anything else today, I'm writing 2,000 words on the novel,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
outlining the third act, or I'm, figuring out what's happening with this. I'm figuring out this character arc, or I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But if it's not the novel, I need to make sure I do whatever it is I'm gonna do on the novel before I decide I'm gonna write that poem, or before I decide
Yeah.
I'm gonna, work on that comic book. Like, it's the novel, right? And I think that gave me such a clarity and a
Hmm.
focus, that it allowed me. I finished the draft actually before the year was out. I finished it. And I realized like, oh, okay, the problem for me was that I had so many different things I wanted to do, and I'm setting these goals for every single thing, and I'm putting
Right.
everything on the same
Yeah,
10,
yeah, yeah.
10 things,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
nothing gets done, right? And so
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm scatterbrained, I'm all over the place. But
Yeah.
once I was able to get that clarity and actually zone in on something, I was able to be more productive. And other projects I was able to finish as well because I knew what I was, what the focus was. You know what I'm saying? What's your experience with that?
So I'm an obsessive list maker, and my husband my husband can attest to this. If it is not written down, it is not in my brain. It
Mm.
does not exist. Like there you cannot send me to a grocery store. Like never ever. Unless every single thing, you can tell me something as I'm walking out the door. Remember this, and I'll be absolutely not. No, unless it is written down. And it's the same with like my business, with my creative practice. Every single day, part of my like morning routine is I sit down and I make a detailed to-do list just for the day of like in priority order too. It's like it's sectioned out into AM, PM, and then AM has like bullet points. Okay, this is what I do first. As soon as I finish that, check it off. This is what I do. And like once a month, I sit down and I schedule out my studio hours. I have a calendar that sits in front of me at my desk that literally every single day it says, okay, broken down into like project one, project two, AM, PM. And then on top of that, I have another one that is like just a project list. And it's just a running list of all the projects that I have. I'm telling you, I am super obsessive about it because if I don't have it, it's so easy for me to get lost. I am somebody that has to juggle a lot of projects at once. That is just the way that you have to do it to survive as an indie artist in sort of the indie publishing sphere. You have to have a lot on your plate at all times. And the only way that I can make that like balancing act work is if I've got my priority list, if I have my schedule, if I have my to-do list. And that is the way that I keep it together.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be a little bit like Jenga. Like if I am forced to have to move even just one thing around, it's like, oh fuck, like where do I put this other thing? If I take this out, is the whole thing going to collapse and then I'll have to rebuild it from scratch. So the list helped me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they help a lot of people. I don't know if that is the way to do it, but that is how I keep myself like focused on track. I know what I'm doing every single day. I know what I need to be accomplishing.
Yeah.
I just take it the extra mile and schedule it out hour by hour because I'm a crazy person that way.
Yeah. And I'm gonna use that and segue to our next one, number
Oh,
4,
great.
is
Perfect.
clear away distractions.
Haha.
Because for me, making lists, I love making lists,
Oh,
and I
yeah?
use it as a distraction. So I will sit and I would just make a list of all these things that I need to do. I'm like, oh, but I need to
Mm-hmm.
do this, I need to do this. Oh, but if I'm getting
Uh-huh.
I gotta do this. I'm doing all this stuff. But
Uh-huh.
I'm using this as just a way to procrastinate.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
you're a list procrastinator. Okay.
it's another resistance piece, right? I'm like, I
Right.
it to not have to deal with that blank page.
I'm
I'm
still
using
being productive. I'm making lists.
right, right, right. Like I can make a list. I mean, I'm a poet. I can make a list. I can do that all day. But I realized, and he says this in the article, like, don't spend a lot of time on clearing away these distractions. He
Yeah,
says clear
yeah,
away distractions, but don't spend a lot of time on this. Like, just
yeah,
close all the programs down, stuff the paper in the desk. You can organize
yeah,
it later, but
yeah,
just get everything out of the way. Put your phone over there, and
yeah,
just do what you need to do. And I think for me, like similarly, like I will be clearing away distractions as a way of not having to deal with what it is that I'm supposed to be dealing with in terms of my art. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah.
What do you think?
No, I mean, I'm the same. I have a very specific way. Like when I go to work, I go to work. I mean, as you know, I like once I'm at my desk, like that's it. That's work time for me. My like office space is like my sacred space. Do not talk to me. Do not like try to get my attention while I'm here. I know a lot of people are really into like background noise, like having like television or something going on. I can't do that. I mean, I love listening to like audiobooks, podcasts, but for some reason the visual aspect of like having television or something else going on just freaks me the fuck out. Like I can't do it. It is way too distracting. Um, you know from experience, I tend to like put my phone on silent and then I leave it somewhere and I usually forget where I've left it. So it just lives there for the day until I look up and I'm like, oh, where did I? Oh no, I'm supposed to like talk to people. Yes.
My phone is in the drawer.
Yes. Exactly. Like, what the fuck did I do with it? But I can't. Like, it's so easy for me, especially like as somebody who deals with clients a lot and has I mean, you're an indie author, like, you know, you guys like to talk and you like to shoot the ideas. if I let if I let like my phone just sit next to me on my desk all day, I would never get any work done because I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I do want to talk to you about that cool like cover art. I do want to talk to you about like this and that. Oh, I forgot I need to like email this person. I need to reach out to this person." It's just it's so easy. So, get rid of it. That's what I say. Just get rid of all of it.
For sure, for sure. And I think that can move us to our next one. You touched on this just now when you
Oh,
talked about
perfect.
having
Love
a
it.
set time, having a set time and place. And I think that's one of the things that I really admire about you and your process is, like you said, when you get to that desk, you already know what it is. Like, I'm at the
That's it.
desk and now
Yeah.
I'm working. I don't really have a set place. I actually like to move around.
Yeah.
I like to, I don't know. Sometimes I can just feel when I
Hmm.
need a shake up. You know what I'm saying? So I
Hmm.
might work at a coffee shop, the same coffee shop for like
Yeah, yeah,
2 months. And then I'll
yeah,
be like, I need to shake it up. And then I'll be like,
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah,
work from home for like a little bit. I usually
yeah,
don't work from home that much anymore because of the kids and
yeah.
family and like all of that. Like if I'm here, then I'm accessible and they can,
Right,
I mean, it's like I'm not getting nothing done if that's happening.
right, right.
And so it just for sometimes like I need to be in a space where sometimes I need quiet. I need that
Yeah,
silence, like
yeah.
to figure it out. But most times, especially when I'm starting a project, I like to
Hmm.
be around not necessarily like TV noise, but like
Yeah,
cars driving by
yeah, yeah. Like
and
ambient.
talking and
Yeah,
dishes clank. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of thing.
yeah,
It
yeah.
gets me sort of into the flow. Um, and so I don't necessarily have a set place, but I do see that there is a when I was a kid, my dad used to wake me up we used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning
Oh my God.
and we would go work out. We would work out
Yeah, yeah.
an hour, 2 hours before school every day. We did that for months. And I knew like it just becomes muscle memory. You get up,
Hmm. Hmm.
where I'm going, you get in the
Yeah,
gym, and it wasn't even like it got to a point where it's like, all right, I don't even got to tell you what drills we doing. You already know what it is. Like
yeah,
walk
yeah.
in, stretch. Well, I probably wasn't stretching because I was a kid at that point. So I was just walking in there, just running. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. You're like, I'm 17, I got this.
I'm going in. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going in. So yeah, I think there is a value to having that set time and place. I think I
Yeah.
just I haven't really found it
Hmm.
yet, and two, sometimes I need to switch it up.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
I think again, like like once you get into your process as a creator, you begin
Yeah.
to figure out, okay, this is what I need, this is what I don't need,
Yeah.
at certain times. You feel me?
Yeah. I think it's really interesting because actually, like listening to you talk about that made me realize that I actually have two very separate processes. So like when I'm working like digitally, when I'm working on like comics and like book art and things like that, when I'm working like on my tablet and my computer, that is something that I have like my office is my sacred space for that. I do not like taking that stuff in public because people bug me over it. They'll come over and they'll be like, "Oh my God, what's that? Oh my God, tell me all about it. Are you an artist? Can you draw me? Do you do tattoos? Like, you must do tattoos." Oh, for those of you watching and listening, if you want a tattoo, ask your tattoo artist. Do not ask one of us. Because your tattoo artist is gonna appreciate you actually asking them to draw something.
Right.
Just a little snippet of wisdom for you. And don't stand over people in coffee shops trying to draw comics.
Right, right, right.
Bad, 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 bad. Unless you want to offer them a job, then go for it. I I did recently get a really, really good design job that way, so okay, I take it back.
Okay, yeah.
Uh, but when I'm painting, when I'm doing like fine art, when I was doing gallery work full time, I did have to change location. I very purposefully would have like places around wherever I was living that I would sort of like I would like do the rounds, you know. I would have like spaces that I went to like people watch and draw, especially when I lived in New York. It's super cheesy, but like I loved nothing more than getting on the G train at like a weird time of night and just sitting there until I found myself on the way to like Rockaway. And I would just sketch and sketch and sketch. And I had like a couple studio haunts that I went to, and I had like my favorite coffee shops where, you know, they knew not to like bug me if I like pulled out my charcoals and my pencils and stuff. And like that movement was really stimulating for me creatively. But I think that process is so much more kind of loose, probably more similar to like what you experience as a writer, where like you sort of need that flow and that movement to like keep the forward progression of stuff like coming out of you. Whereas like with comic art and like the art that I do as Rainy Days art, I'm producing other people's ideas. I'm producing other people's like images. So it takes so much more like hyper intense like focus and so much more of my energy and my bandwidth to do that, that it requires me to be like in that one, like this is the space, this is the time. And if I don't do it, then I just like will not, it doesn't, making other people's images doesn't come naturally to me. You know, it is something that I have to put myself in the right position to do it.
Mm,
If
yeah,
that makes sense, you
yeah,
know?
sure, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
That's good. That's good. All right, we got two more. Number six, know your motivation. So in this section, Leo gives a couple of examples, questions wise. Why are you doing this? Why is this task important? What is it you're working towards? How important is the end goal? Why is it important? You need to know these things to build up the motivation and overcome the resistance. You
Hmm.
agree with that, Kayla? What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think when you're working as a creative professional, like, you know, there's the obvious, like you want to make sure that you're getting paid for the projects that you're working on. And that's like an end goal, a motivation for you to be sitting down and doing the work. But I think it has a lot more to do with kind of what we touched upon a couple of weeks ago, which is like the ideologies that you have as a creator. What about this project is fulfilling you? And like
Mm,
be sure to like be mindful of that. Be sure to like stay connected to that through the process. You know, even though I'm just talking about in this like the previous question, when I'm making comics, when I'm working as Rainy Days Art, I'm creating other people's images, I'm creating other people's ideas because that's what I've been hired to do. It doesn't mean that that work is any less valuable to me than like my own personal work, because I look at those projects and I look at the goals that are set in those projects as like I need to meet those so that my client feels good. I need to meet those so that I feel good that I've like cultivated this relationship and this like successful progression forward with them. Um, and yeah, yeah, I think being mindful of that is super important to staying like fulfilled in your work life as a creative.
yeah. And maybe I could just be misinterpreting what this is saying, but I don't really like this one.
Okay,
I,
let's hear.
I'm always intimidated when people start throwing around questions like, "Why are you doing this?
Okay.
What is your why?"
Uh-huh.
Because for me, a lot of times, like I don't have like a why. Like I just have like a I like doing this. Like I love doing this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't have like a profound like, I want to
Are
see.
you sure though? Are you sure you don't
Well,
have a why?
so this is where the intimidation comes from
Yeah.
because I'm not sure if I don't like I'm not sure if it's there. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like,
right.
but I will say I was riding in the car the other day
Uh-huh.
and there was a instrumental playing.
Hmm.
So I was sort of doing my thing, starting to formulate lyrics to it.
Yeah.
And my kids were like, Daddy, is that how the song goes? Like, is this
Uh-huh.
those are the words? And no, they weren't the words because I was just mumbling and just figuring out sounds that go together.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
playing with it. And I realized that for me, I just want them to remember me as a maker, like somebody who
Hmm.
made stuff, created stuff, and shared
Right.
it with people. Um, but I feel like that's a why, but I also don't feel like I don't know if that is profound enough
Hmm.
to answer a question like that. So this question intimidates.
Hmm. I think I think that that completely I wait. I think that goes back to you, like does it matter to you? Because if it doesn't, then like fuck what anybody else
Yeah,
questions or thinks. And also like this is an argument that is had in the art community. I don't know if it is in the writing community, but not everything has to have meaning and motivation behind it.
that's
You
what
can just create for the sake of creating, and it is actually like a healthy, I highly recommend just creating like for the sake of creating without any purpose or ulterior motivation.
I'm right.
Like that's just expression. Like I don't see any problem with not having like a formal motivation for something.
And but see, and that's why I think, and I mean, I'm sure that this is not something that is always applicable to overcoming resistance, but I just don't know if I just question this tactic to overcoming
Yeah.
resistance because
Yeah.
if you don't have some inner motivation or this why behind what you're doing, then I feel like that. So like for me, it made me question like, oh,
Right.
like should I be doing this? Like because I don't,
Oh,
I'm just
yeah.
creating. I like doing this. I love doing this.
Right.
I'm good
Right.
at it, but I don't really have like I'm not trying to change the world. I actually had a situation with somebody who, she was like wanted to change the world. Like she was
Yeah.
like, I'm
Yeah.
starting this magazine. I want you to do this with me. I'm
Yeah.
trying to change the world. And I was like, well, I just want to write. Like, I'm not really
Yeah.
trying to like
Yeah.
change the world. And she was like,
Right.
no, we got to change the world. If you don't want to change the world, you can't do it. I'm
Yikes.
like, oh, okay. So, but then that made me question, like,
Right.
am I supposed to be trying to change the world with this? Or
Yeah.
is it
Yeah.
okay for me to just enjoy the craft and to
Yeah.
enjoy, what I'm doing? You feel me?
Yeah. Oh, well, I think that's really interesting. I was just reading something the other day that was talking about how we like specifically like people you and I's age are at this weird point where, when we were growing up, things like artist and writer weren't really considered like jobs. People didn't say like, "Oh, when you grow up, what do you want to be?" And if you said, "I want to be a painter," they'd be like, "Well, what do you really want to be? How are you going to like make money?" Uh, and there's this idea specifically in America that if you can't monetize it, then it's not worth anything. Then it's not valuable. It's not like worth putting time and energy and effort into. And we've been kind of like indoctrinated into this like hustle culture of, well, everything you do, whether it's your profession, your hobby, or it's just something you love to do, should be made with intent, should be made with the intention of like sharing. It should be made with the intention of selling. It should be made with the intention of like it could turn into something more than just the simple like act of loving what you're doing.
Mhm.
And I think that's something that's really hard for us, especially as people who toe that line. Like, we are professional creatives. We have chosen to make this our livelihood, but we have to protect that that ability to create just for the sake of creating, like at all costs, because I think that's when we get to the point where we can no longer sit down and just write a poem or make like a small painting without thinking like, oh God, like how am I gonna make a reel of this so I get seen on like the Instagram algorithm? And then how am I gonna like put this up for sale on my Etsy shop or like pitch this to a zine? The moment that we can't do that and like separate those thoughts, that is when we are like in big trouble. That's when you need to sit yourself down and be like, I need to reevaluate how like I'm feeling. Because I feel like that's like the heart of being a creative, right?
Yeah, and this goes back to our very first episode where we talked about
Yes. Bringing it all the
create.
way back.
Yeah, like I mean, that goes hand in hand with that, right? Like if
Yeah.
you, I mean, I think that's the thing. Like, why are you doing this? Are you doing
Mhm.
this for the money? Are you
Yeah.
doing this for the love? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I personally, I don't have a problem with people just doing it for the money,
Yeah.
but I think that there's a different, it's just a different category, you know.
Yeah. Totally.
Um,
Totally.
and but I think this goes back to the machine piece, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
On one hand, it's just so nuanced, right? It's like you're
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
machine, but at the same time, like you sort
You
of
got it.
you sort of are. Like,
You got it. Yeah.
figure it out.
You signed up to be one.
Yeah, yeah. And so I mean, it's so many new, but I think that's why I
Yeah.
don't really like this one because it's just
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
there's so many layers.
It's shallow. It feels like a shallow.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the question's problem, not ours.
Yeah. That's the question for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Um, so with that being said, we're gonna say
Yeah.
our last one, our seventh one, and this is my. I mean, I love this one. This is
Oh
my
man.
point right here.
Oh man.
All right, just start. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Look, now I'm
Yes.
I'm the guy who has the idea. And I'm like, hey, I had this idea.
Yeah.
I think we should start tomorrow.
I know. I know. You do. You're like, why tomorrow? Why not tonight? Can you hop on a plane? Like, how soon can you get here?
Taylor's like, so
Uh,
plan though. I'm like, plan? Who needs a plan? I don't need a plan. Do you need a plan? But I really believe that there's something really valuable in. So for me, I can only speak for myself.
Mhm.
I am a master at talking myself out of things.
Yes.
So I try to, when I get an idea, I try to move as quickly as possible before I can talk, I can tell myself all the problems with it, all the reasons why it's not going to work, all the reasons why I shouldn't do it, all the reasons why I'm going to fail. I try to just do it first, and then I can talk about all those other things later. This is why it won't work. This is why, all this type of stuff. And so I just try to get that head start. I try to look, I'm going to just do it. I'm going to do it and see what happens. But I just love this one. Like, I just think this is everything. I don't know. What do you think, Kayla?
I mean, I'm there with you. Like I know that I'm sort of the voice of reason in our in our partnership, and I'm kind of the one to be like, no, we can't just like fly to California and ask for a table at the San Francisco Comic Con. It doesn't work that way, Ro. Like,
How do
I
you
know
know?
that I have a, and you're like, how do you know? Maybe it could. Just gotta do it. Just gotta start. But on the flip side, like I also believe in the power of like just fucking do it. Like just fucking do it. Tune out like all the well, I need to get this in order and I really need to make sure that I'm more prepared for this or I'm better at doing this before I take a chance. Like fuck it, man. Just do it. Just do it. Like
And
just
and here's
start.
the thing. Those things are absolutely important.
Yeah,
But I just believe that those things come as you're moving, as you're doing. Like if you don't have
exactly.
it all at the beginning, like our show, for example, right? Like
Yeah.
we started on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
All right, this is not gonna work. Let's get another day.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Then
No.
it was like, all right, well, let's figure out. Okay,
Well, hold up. First, you asked me, you were like, hey, do you want to do this live stream show? And then you were like, how about today in like an hour? And I was like, what? Do you remember that? I was like, what world are you living in where I can just like up and be like, yeah, sure, totally.
did I do that? Oh,
Yes. Yeah, yeah. And then I was like, no, 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 we gotta like set a day. And you were like, Saturday morning. And I was like, okay. And here we are.
like, yeah, okay, 30 minutes. We're going
Mhm,
live. Let's
mhm,
go. And you're
mhm.
like, no,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't really remember that, but I'm sure.
Oh,
Sure I did.
yeah. I laughed and laughed and laughed about
I'm
it.
sure I did. But I just think there's something really cool about just
Yeah,
jumping in and just starting. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But like I said, but I think like our show is a good example because we're just as we're going, we're slowly but surely
yeah.
figuring things out.
Figuring shit
And
out.
I feel like it's getting better and better and better, you know.
I mean,
Um
we even have like a fancy background now. That's got to
dude,
count for
let's
something. That's
go.
progress.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Winnie and Row in the background. I love it. I love it. So that was the 7 steps. Number 1 was become aware. 2 was become a pro. 3 was be clear and focused. 4 was clear away distractions. 5 was have a set time and place. 6 is the one that shall not be named. I'm just playing. It's know your motivation. And number 7 is to just start. So
Start.
those are the 7 steps, 7 powerful steps of overcoming resistance. Um, I think that's it. Kayla, do you have anything that you want to plug? Anything you want to say to the people before we get out of here?
I don't think so. I am out. I think my brain is sizzling. I think I am ready.
Okay. Well,
Yeah,
this was a long episode.
this
Thank you
was.
guys for kicking it with us. If you like this, like, subscribe, share this, follow us on Instagram and TikTok, check
Please.
us out on Facebook. And with that, we are out of here. We love you guys. Have a great night.